Hello, y'all on YouTube. This is Rob from Rob's Nerdy Knives. Today I have a very special and interesting review impressions of a knife that was given to us by QSP for a pass-around group. This is the QSP Rhino. This is one of their higher-end production versions that they've done. I'm not sure exactly who the designer is. I think it's in-house. I don't think there's a name associated with it. If I'm wrong, please comment down below and correct me, but I don't think so, from what I gathered and remember. But this knife has a lot of things that are interesting and some things that, for me, are kind of a bummer, but I think it has a lot of potential, and so I'm going to talk about the good and some of the things that aren't so good, right? So that's what my impressions is. I do try to be honest with how I feel about a knife, but I also try to look for the positive in a knife and see what's there. Because sometimes a knife that's not, maybe necessarily my cup of tea might be somebody else's perfect cup of tea, right? So let's talk about that. So this knife right here, the manufacturer is QSP. It's a higher end version, probably I think their first stab at a really high end knife. They're the designer and they did everything on this thing. The materials on this thing, this is titanium handles, as you can see, and this is a Damascus clip with a Damascus backspacer. That does add some cost to it. And it has some unique milling on here and with a ball here, a little ceramic ball, which allows it to move in and out of pocket very nicely. I think that's kind of cool. This is M390 blade steel, as you can see right there, M390 blade steel. Let's see if we can get a good close-up of that. This is not the hollow grind. They make a version of this in hollow grind that's going to be over $400, and it's usually a compound hollow grind, hollow here and a flat on top. This is a flat grind for both, the whole thing. It's just a flat grind, and it is a Tanto. You can see it has a nice little tip right there. Comes pretty sharp, which is nice. So beautiful satin finish. I always like QSP's satin finish. This reminds me of like my traditional pocket knives exclusive by QSP, the Penguins. Like those a lot. So, let's talk a little bit about the handle materials. We talked about that. Titanium. There is a good amount of weight relief. I don't know if you can see that in there. So this is fairly good weight reduction as far as that's concerned. This is not super sharp. Sometimes these can be sharp, and what that means is that if it goes in and out of your pocket, this can be a pocket shredder, right? And it's nice that they've chamfered those corners or softened rounded those edges so they're not ripping up your jeans. That's always really important, I think, to me. We talked about the steel, the handle. It is cage ceramic ball bearings. As you can see, it does kind of have a beautiful drop shut. Though it's a little gritty, I think this was my knife, I would probably put skiff washers in there. That's just me. That a lot of times addresses those things because, skiff just has such a great job as far as the quality and stuff. These are all T8s all the way around, including the clip. So that's nice. Good hardware choice there. There's some nice jimping on the flipper, which makes the jimping work really, really nicely. So it's a beautiful flipper. It's got a beautiful fuller hole right there, so that also allows for a nice deployment as far as opening with a reverse flick. I do like that as far as that material. Now the jimping up here is weird. It's more of a design, but to me it's not a functional design. We'll talk more about that later when we talk about the ergos and feel, but it makes my hand slide off. So that's, I wish that was a little different. I like this right here, the way they did it. I think up here should have been a little different. That's my opinion. Maybe you crossed it, so you have a jimping where it's a cross pattern. I don't know. Just not one, because my hand naturally, as it moves down, it gets pushed off. And if I push up, it gets pushed off to the right. And if I pull down, it gets pushed to the left. It follows the lines, right? And that I don't care for. So as far as flipping, and the reason why I mention that, because this looks like it should be a front flipper, but I have had the darndest time flipping it. That really hurts to do a front flip, and I can barely get it, and it digs into my hand. So I think it's tuned really well for the flipper, and I think it's tuned really well for the fuller. So for that, but the front flipper, if this is intended to be a front flipper, it needs to be a lighter detent, and which might make it a little too light for the flipper, might make it too light for the fuller, which is unfortunate. Either give us a little more leverage, go a little higher so you can get to that a little bit better, give some more traction on here. This jimping doesn't really give me any traction to pull it, right? I've got to get low enough where I can get in there and hold it, and even then, there's no guarantee. So yeah, so I stopped doing it because it's just not comfortable at all. So that's the deployment methods, if you will. It is a frame lock. You can see that it's got a steel bar insert, which is also over travel stop. So when you do open it, you'll see that. And engagement on this one, I would say, is fairly pretty high. We're like 50-60%, so that's a little high for me. I'm not a big fan of that. QSP sometimes on some of their knives, their engagement on the frame locks tend to be a little too high for me. I like to see 30, 25, 30, maybe 40% at the most. Anytime you're over 50, 60%, that to me is too much, because after a while, with wear and tear, it's just going to keep going further and further left to the point where you're finally going to go past the entire tang and angle of the blade, and then you have an unsafe knife and a knife that's not usable, right? You would have to get a new steel bar insert that's a little bit longer to fit in there, but getting that for a knife, and that could be impossible, right? Especially if it's a knife that may not have parts for you anymore, so you have to deal with that. So as far as that, I feel like the functional is going to be the flipper, is going to be the fuller. This is not very functional as far as I'm concerned. Cutaway to the lock bar. I will say it is nicely cut away here, and there's some nice chamfering right here as well, so that's easy to get to. Let's look at where's that detent ball. You clear the detent ball when you're about right there, which is, here's the detent, and there's the clearing right there. You clear right there. That's not too bad. So once you clear that, it drops fairly well with a nice little shake shut. I think skiff washers would probably allow this just to be drop shut, or at least control drop shut, right? So that would be nice. Reverse flicking is possible. You do have to use the clip for that. So there's that. The clip here is beautiful, is gorgeous, as is the back spacer. It is very beautiful, but it's very sharp. It's got some really sharp corners here, right here. It's very sharp on the edges, so I wish they would have rounded that. That would have been really nice. And it's pretty sharp on the edges. I mean, I wish they'd have softened it all the way around, because, having to hold on to that for a reverse flick, it digs into you a little bit, and it's not very comfortable. And when I open it and I'm squeezing on this does dig into the hand a little bit. Now, mind you, I have medium, large hands. My hands are large widthwise, medium lengthwise, and when I get a full grip in there, I am tight. I'm being pushed out of this channel. There's not a whole lot of room. I feel like this is almost a knife made more for large to medium hands widthwise, right? You want to have smaller, not meaty fingers, so you have more room in here. This is really challenging to get my hand in there. That's part of the uncomfortableness. I feel like I'm already out of the channel. If I go in there and I just grip it, my hand's already up here, and it's naturally going against that. So that means this part is digging into my hand, which is not comfortable. That's a bummer. I think if they had just rounded this a little more out and not coming up so aggressively here, I think that would have really opened up the knife to a whole lot more people. I don't mind this flat part. I know Kvist has done a lot of things with that, and they've kind of brought this back, and I know some other manufacturers do that. This is fine up here. I don't have a problem at all with that. It's very comfortable. It's, to me, it's like a little finger choil sort of groove that works fine. This part right here is just a miss for me, right? So that is like the cutaway, the feel of the hand. So let's go ahead and do some measurements on this knife. Oh, let's zero that out. All right, so let's see. So this is 4.41 ounces. So, it's a pretty heavy knife, 4.41 ounces. At 4.41 ounces, you would hope it's a really long blade, but it's not quite that. The overall length of the knife is about 7.5 inches if you go from the tip to the butt. And for the blade itself, if you look for the handle you're about 3.25 inches actual cutting length. If we were to do the actual cutting length, we are looking at 3.25 inches as well. So 3.25 inches. It is a Tanto blade, so you do have that second point to work with, cut with, which is nice, if you need to do that. But overall, for the handle, this is where I'm very disappointed, because it's 3.5. If we go to the butt of the knife, right? If we go all the way to the butt of the knife, we see that we have about 3.5 inches, but realistically, we only have 3.25 inches, if that at all. When this groove comes up aggressively, you're looking probably at 3 inches of width there, and that's small. I mean, that's smaller than my Pena, and which is I consider that like a fifth pocket knife, right? So smaller than the baby Banter from that finger choil to the end of it. So that's a bummer for me. I really wish that wasn't the case, but it is. All right, so let's look at this. As far as the thickness of the blade, let's get a little feel about that. Oh, I'm having a hard time standing this up. Come on. Yeah, it's not standing really well. All right, so let's try that. It's because of that rounded back, so I'm going to have to hold that. All right, so let's see if we're... Oh, okay. All right, there we go. All right, so let's measure that. So we're 138 hundredths of an inch, 138 hundredths of an inch, 139 hundredths of an inch if we want to talk about it. And if I squeeze in a little bit, 136. So about 136 hundredths of an inch. That's what we're talking about. It's a little thicker than a normal blade, but not aggressively thick. You know, it's not like it's not 0.15, it's 0.136, which is not bad, you know, for a blade. I wish the hollow grind wasn't $100 more because that could have added something to this knife, right? So based on those measurements, right, you know, it is what it is, right? So let's talk about the knife category. Well, this knife is about in the high 300s. So this definitely puts it into the high-end knife. And I will tell you, yeah, you know, it's pretty on paper. I will give you that. It is pretty on paper. There's no doubt about that. So if you look at this knife, you see a lot of beauty on there. And if you like it and it really speaks to you, I would definitely collect it. It's more to me a collector's piece or someone with smaller hands. I think you would enjoy that. But that's a lot of money to be asked for what you're getting. And if the Timascus, they added $200, $180, whatever for the Timascus, then, you know, they should make this an offering without that. I just really feel this back here was a miss. So anyways, Ergos and Field handle design. Man, such a miss. Beautiful chamfering here. I like the ideas. And so if you have smaller hands, you may love this knife and it may be a perfect fit for you. So I would say that this is probably going to be a great knife for smaller hands, thinner fingers. I think you will love this. So there's that. So if you're a person with smaller hands, thinner fingers, you're looking for something with a smaller grip, you might love this. You really do. And I'm going to recommend it to folks like that. But for anybody else with more than average size hands, it's just too uncomfortable. It's just not enough space. I can't get a good grip on this. And that to me is a real disappointment for something that has a lot of potential in it. It's just a real disappointment. And I wish it wasn't so. You know, just this right here is just really kind of kills it, right? As far as handle design. Deployment design, the flipper is beautiful, works really nicely. I do like the flipper. The fuller is nice, works really, really nicely. If this is supposed to be a front flipper, it's a big fail. The detent is not set. I can't even get it. The detent's not set to really for that to work. It's very uncomfortable. You can't get a good grip. You don't have any traction. The jimping here is not adequate. Either tune it for more of a fuller front flipper detent or just take the detent this away because this really adds nothing. This is very frustrating and misleading. So that I'm just going to be straight up honest about that. Just really bummer as far as that's concerned. Closing design. Closing is really nice. Getting to the frame lock, beautiful, easy to drop, great action. I love that. And QSP usually knocks that stuff out. They do a great job with all of that. So I can't fault it on that. The cutaway is great. The jimping, well, yeah, we already talked about that. Fidget factor. You know, this could have a 9 or 10 out of 10 as far as fidgetability, right? I would say if the flipper, the front flipper, and the fuller, all those together, this gets close to being a 10 out of 10 for fidgetability, right? You would get a 10 out of this. But as far as the actual fidgety goodness that you get out of this, because of that and how frustrating that is and how misleading that is, I'm going to give this like a 70%. You give it a C. This is like barely pass, right? Because this is so good and because this is so good, but it's grindy with the washer, which is kind of a bummer. This is so misleading and you want to use it. You just want to try to use that. It's just not functional. I don't know if the tuning on this one is just off. This is not mine. I can't take it apart. I can't tune it. I can't do anything because this is going around in a pass around. This was given to us, to the Apex group for us to try from the manufacturer. I think if they take anything out of this as a first try at a really high-end knife, I feel like, you know, you went for it, and that's awesome. I love the Timascus. Consider rounding and smoothing that. This could be a solid win. This is a beautiful idea, but these sharp edges really ruin it. If you can fix that, bring this back. I like that. This right here, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I love, 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 love this. I would love to get a QSP, Penguin exclusive, like from traditional pocket knives, and them to have something like that. Or Caviezo when they do some of their stuff. That's just beautiful. I love that. The flipper, outstanding. Everything is great. This front flipper, no. Give me more leverage. Give me different jimping. This jimping does not work up here. If this is meant to be just pretty, well, okay, yeah, it's nice, it's different, but it's not functional. It's dangerous, if anything. It's almost dangerous if you're actually going to use this knife. If you're just planning to keep this as a collection piece, I guess you're fine. But I use all my knives. Any knife I buy, I use. And this, to me, I wouldn't be comfortable with using that. So there you go. That's my overall, that's my thought on the fidget factor as far as that's concerned. Overall thoughts, and is it recommended? Well, my overall thoughts, it has a lot of potential. I think for the right person, this is going to be a recommended knife. Am I going to recommend it? No, I'm not going to recommend it. But for someone who has smaller hands, someone who likes the aesthetics that this offers, I think you will like this. And I would recommend it to you if that's what you're looking for, if with smaller hands. Absolutely. But if you've got normal, larger size hands, I would not recommend this. I feel like there's so many things that are so close but are just a miss. Fix this part right here, give us a little more room. Round the corners right here, right? And then fix the front flipper right here. Make this a better front flipper. Give me more leverage or tune the detent a little bit differently. I know it's a mix between you want that detent on that flipper because this one is almost next to, can I fail it? Yeah, I can fail it. I mean, I really have to try to do it. See, even if I just do a normal try to lightly flick it, it still deploys, right? And that only failed because this part hit my finger. I didn't move it out of the way. Yeah, so see, that only failed because, yeah, again, I hit my finger. So I'm failing it by my finger being in the way. If my finger is out of the way, it's never going to fail. The D10 is perfect for the flipper. It's just not for a front flipper. You know, that's a bummer. You need more leverage in the front flipper if you want to have the same amount of leverage torque that you can get in the front flipper, and then that would be awesome, right? And then this jimping, you want to make that more functional. Make it functional. Because of that, I can't recommend it. I'm not going to put it in my recommended knives. I'm just going to tell you that this is my review, my thoughts on there. I think it has potential. I do. And I think as their first attempt at this, there's a lot of good things about this, and if they can fix a few of the things, I think this knife could be a grand slam. I really do. I think this could really be quite beautiful and exquisite. You know, so a few key factors that really can make this knife go from like, yeah, it's all right to whatever. But also, for all of this, the price, if you're going to charge me almost $400 and then $450 to get a hollow grind, man, you better knock everything out of the park. I mean, you're trying to compete with a Chavez Kickstart, a Reddition 229, or even a Enrique Pena X series, like oh my goodness, I can't think of the name of my knife. My brain is totally brain dead all of a sudden. My Malibu, no, not my Malibu, oh my goodness, I can't think of the name of the knife right now. My Mula, goodness, I hate that. So my Mula, and that's with the hollow grind, this one, and that mine has Damasteel in it. That was Damasteel, and it's cheaper than this with the hollow grind. Man, you gotta knock everything else. Everything's gotta execute together. It's a beautiful design. It's like somebody with creativity decided, let's go for this, and let's not field test it first. Just wish that was different. So there you go. And it squeaks, if you notice that. And I think that has to do with the detent ball, maybe on the blade. I don't know. Or if it's the skiffs. I'm not skiffs, the Kate ceramic ball bearings. Maybe skiffs might fix that. You know, maybe a little bit of oil. I don't know. It's not my knife, so I can't really do much with it. I can't try to tune or do anything with it. But so much potential. But it's just, those are the things that if you know, I don't know if QSP is going to watch this. I doubt they are. I'm too small of a channel. But if they ever do, those are my recommendations to make this a home run. So close, so close. If you fix those things, this thing would just be awesome, right? So there you go. Those are my overall thoughts. I don't know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you think I have some good valid points? Please comment down below. I do try to read all my comments and try to reply. If you have any questions about the knife, the review, please let me know as well. I will try to answer those. Any questions to the channel, I will try. If you enjoyed this video, would you consider hitting the like button down below? And if you've already hit the like button, would you consider hitting the subscribe button? Liking and subscribing to the channel really helps out a lot. It allows me to produce more content and do more. So thank you if you would do that, please. And if you've already done both of those things, maybe consider hitting the notification button so you can be notified of future content as it is dropped. And if you've done all that, check me out over on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Again, that's on Instagram at robs_nerdy_knives. Hey, thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day and a great week. Bye.